Hello, welcome to the channel. Something different today. We're making, I have yet to finish the editing or even start it, but we're recording right now. We're making an edited video where I'm going to talk to you about a common mistake that people are making in World of Tanks Blitz. It's something that drives me absolutely spare. I've curated 3 recent replays from my own gameplay that I think demonstrate the concept of what people should be doing really well. Just get that out of the way. Awesome source. Basically, this is a critical mistake, in my opinion, which is being made across all skill levels. I see it particularly at tier 10, and it's not just rookies, it's not people new to the game, it's not people with a lower average win rate that do this. It's something which I see all too often. Even some of my very skilled platoon mates from time to time will make this mistake, and I'm guilty of it as well. It's not talked about a lot. It is something, though, that I think if you can kind of get a handle on this and replicate it throughout your games, you're going to have a lot more success overall. Basically, the point of this video is to help you play to your tank and team's advantages and keep those advantages. It's a key word, is keeping advantages. A lot of people know what flank on a map is the heavy flank, what flank on a map is the medium or light tank, those mobile tanks, we're going to call them mobile tanks. Which flank, where to go in different tank classes. So this video is talking about playing to your tank's advantages and keeping them from the perspective of a medium / light tank, a mobile tank. And these are a pretty rare class nowadays since the Yos got introduced, which basically a Yo is a heavy tank that can play front or second line and can rinse in under 2 seconds a mobile tank of about half of its hit points. So the issue is we're not really seeing a lot of mobile tanks in public matches. They're still getting some use. I play them a lot. They're my favorite kind of game style, game mechanic way to play. But even in tournaments, these tanks, you know, mediums, light tanks, are on the decline. They're seeing less and less usage. At least that's been my experience. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that the popularity of mobile tanks has been decreasing? So what are the advantages of these mobile tanks? Well, it's speed, agility, we're talking about like traverse, acceleration, view range, and raw DPM. Now in the case of the Sheridan, raw DPM not so much, but it's got nice burst damage, and certainly it's got that light tank camo and some pretty good view ranges to boot. When you're going to the medium tank flank, your objective is to secure that flank or that part of the map. Now on Canyon, for example, there's not really a medium flank per se. The center of the map is where medium and light tanks, someone from your team has to go here, someone from your team, ideally someone that can play well hull down, that's got a good view range, has to control this area, get information on the enemy, and use their view range and DPM to spot enemies, put out hurt, and facilitate the TDs to do their work from the back, and the heavies to rotate accordingly. And that's what I've done in my Sheridan throughout this battle. We're almost 3 minutes in. I've cleared off an enemy VT. I've been playing quite aggressively, took down the Leo for a shot, like 2 shots in return for the kill. It's pretty fair. I'm holding on to a good chunk, 60% plus of my hit points, and you can see I'm unspotted now, and I'm using my view range and my spotting mechanics not as well as I could be. Not as well as I could be, to be fair. But I'm controlling this area well. I can move around this hill because I am mobile. I'm not getting sucked into engaging enemy heavy tanks and TDs on their terms. I'm not going toe-to-toe with heavies. I'm not overextending. I'm trying to play loose, play to my tank's advantages. And that is something which a lot of people don't do. Now we know the best example that I can think of is Middleburg. Now, Middleburg, if you've got a medium tank, I mean, technically, you should be going up on Middleburg, whatever you've got. I think it's a general. Meadsy recently did a video where he was talking about like the worst behaviors in Blitz recently, and people going to the wrong flank was on that list, and I agree with him 100%. And Middleburg, like, we're seeing more people go to the city. The only time you should go to the city is if your team has a huge medium tank advantage. But what you'll see on Middleburg is a lot of people will go to the hill in their medium tank. You'll win the hill. Your team will win the hill. You played really well. The enemy team's got a lot of... Ooh, jam turret. Now RNGesus really does me a dirty here. Watch this, watch this, watch this. Absolute BS. So anyway. Sorry, I know how this plays out, but still, it's a knife edge moment. But still, people will win that mobile flank, Middleburg, maybe going up on Black Goldfill, maybe playing the D cap on Canyon. People will win their mobile flank. And then what they'll do is they will immediately piss away that advantage and they will YOLO into the unfavorable flank. And probably this is another great map to show it. What you'll see here, this is Oasis Palms. The flank that we're looking at right now, the C flank, is the medium flank. And these teams are pretty balanced. We've got an extra heavy. They've got 2 TDs, but both of their TDs are non-turreted. Our FV4005's got a turret. Both teams, tier 2 mediums, 2 mobile tanks. This is a well-balanced match. Now, of course, as a medium tank driving the Progetto, awesome camo, by the way. That's the old Platinum League camo, super classy. And I got the emoji light for the Progetto because you need to reward your tanks. We can see the dynamic suspension. I wasn't sure about it. It looks good. It looks good. Watching replays of dynamic suspension makes me feel good. Probably much better than that T5041 feels after losing pretty much most of his hit points in the first 40 seconds. Anyway, people on Oasis Palms will play this medium flank. And ideally, your team plays this flank aggressively. You come out on top with your mobile elements, and then that gives you control of the map, gives you control of the flank, and you can then push in to the enemy flank intelligently. And this is what people are not doing. This is the mistake. People win this flank, and then they YOLO into the city, and they piss away the advantage. The reason why you didn't take your medium tank to the heavy flank at the beginning of the battle is because that terrain doesn't favor you. The enemy tanks, the enemy heavies want to fight you in the city. They want you as a medium to fight you in this. They want to fight you in the city. They want to nullify your DPM. They want to nullify your mobility. They want to basically, if you're in a city brawl, proxy spotted 50 meters by anyone that's around you, your view range counts for significantly less to jack shit all. You've got to identify your tank's advantages, play to them, and keep them. And this is something, I saw it in the Sheridan game, I showed you just before. We kept map control, we kept our view range as our weapon, and our mobility as our weapon right until the very end. Could have played it a bit better in the end of that. But that's also what we're doing here in the Progetto, is now we've won the flank, we've come up, our 2 mobile tanks have pipped. We beat the T5041 and the enemy Progetto. We've come out pretty healthy. Me and my T92 buddy, we're doing absolutely grand. But our team is in the city is getting overrun and overwhelmed. There's also an NMX50B and a Foch. Quite a bit of burst damage potential in there. And if we overextend into the city, we're basically exposing ourselves to fire unnecessarily. You see in this game, I am playing the ridge line. This ridge line around the C-cap area. Our teams, we've got the cap advantage. The guns are tied. I mean, the enemy team, I think, is probably healthier hit point-wise. Certainly, the enemy has got 2 pretty solid heavy tanks and a relatively tough TD in the city. We're ahead on cap points, but they've got an actual cap, and we've got an actual cap. So right now, we don't need to push in. We can be winning, we can play the game and win on cap points. We can force them to come to us. We don't need to overextend. We don't need to engage the enemy on the terms that we denied at the start of the battle, and that is key. That's the mistake people are making. People rush in to engage, fight. You spend the first 2-3 minutes of the battle winning this medium flank, and then you go into the city and you lose all of the advantages that you worked very hard to keep. Right now, I'm sort of hull down, I'm using my mobility, I'm exposing a very small amount of my tank, I'm pumping out the damage quite reliably. I'm providing Overwatch for IMX50B, who, you know, kudos to this guy, dropped down into the ditch knowing that he'd have the support of us. Don't quite get the Foch there. I mean, this game, it plays out really nicely. But at the time when you don't know how things are going to unfold, you know, a few minutes ago, we were in a pretty ropey situation where if the enemy just pushed the 50B, they could have been on top of us, but they would have had to cross the ground, come against our DPM in view range. Now, we're left with good map control. We've got the view range working in our favor. We're going to spot them before they spot us. We've also got that DPM. Now, the T92 E1, I think it is, he should ideally be going to A at this particular moment in time, but both the enemy tanks are focusing on the E100 and the Foch. I have been outputting damage farming quite effectively from this flank. I would have done a lot less damage. I would have lost HP if I had pushed into the city, if I had sacrificed the advantage that I carved out for myself with the help of my teammate at the beginning of the game. And now, when both enemy tanks are one-shots, I can push in, I can be aggressive, I can use those hit points. And this is the mistake people are making. You're winning the flank that favors your tank, and then you are basically saying, well, I don't need this advantage, I'm going to go to the city, which I avoided in the beginning. And typically, this is the problem that affects mobile tanks a lot more, because heavy tanks, of course, can't reposition at the same rate as you know, the heavy tanks cannot, once you win the city, like, you often two caps, or like, you know, the early cap is in the city. At least the two caps on Oasis Palms are more city oriented than the desert cap, which caters to the mobile tanks. So there's less impetus on the heavy tanks to push out once they've won. Also, you know, with the speed, with the lack of mobility that heavy tanks and TDs typically have, they're less inclined to do that. So you've got to be, we saw with the Sheridan, playing that central area, using our view range and camouflage, keeping those advantages that we won when we controlled the B area, killed the VT. Then with the Progetto, we won the desert flank, but we didn't then rush into the city and fight the enemy tanks on their terms. And now this is a really, I mean, I think this is a very interesting game, and this ties me back. Loops me right back to what I said at the beginning. Medium tanks are rare. I'm the only medium tank on the field. No lights, no other mediums, just me. I take a big risk here. Now, this could have gone south. If the enemy team had pushed out towards this flank, I might have died very quickly. But that is my playstyle. High risk, mediocre reward. Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. Mobility. This is what I think this replay showcases. And this is what I want to talk about. Again, it's about not getting sucked into fights on the enemy's terms. Now, I know there's no one on the medium flank. There's no one there. I'm spawn checking. There's no one in the spawn. There's no low-hanging fruit. No easy damage to output. But we are 55 seconds in. I've caught up with a Tortoise who is maybe a few, maybe 100, 150 meters away. Look at the minimap. The enemy knows I'm here. They're going to push on me. They're not as fast as I am. There's no point me going toe-to-toe with 2 or 3 enemy tanks in the city. It's their environment, it's their terms, they're going to have higher group DPM, I'm going to get clapped. I don't want that. I can relocate, and actually this is a great thing to do with the TVP, because you've got that 4-shot burst damage. So you can just hustle, get out of dodge. This serves multiple benefits. Benefit 1, you're not losing your HP trading unfavorably. Benefit 2, I've pulled maybe 2 or 3 enemy tanks out of the fight. I'm giving my team a default advantage. My team is kind of engaging the enemy in the city. Half the enemy team just turned around to try and fight me. I was gone before they even got to where I used to be. I was pretty safe there and able to relocate. The TVP is pretty rapid. And now again, pay attention to the minimap. I know that they're coming for me. I'm letting my camo reset. I'm going to make sure that I don't get proxy spotted. And I'm just going to disengage and then re-engage from a new flank. And I'm keeping that distance from the far wall and making sure that they don't know what I'm doing. And the TVP, I mean, we're doing 60 kilometers per hour. This thing can hustle. No one's facing me. The T-57 does not expect me. Can't even get his gun turned around in time. The VK 4005, he's ready. Now facing me. I don't need to worry about getting that last shot off. Can reload and relocate using that mobility. Haven't taken any damage, have output 2,500. It's pretty good. This isn't a mastery game like the other ones, but this just kind of shows you like the advantages you have in certain tank types. Everyone, most people, not everyone, most people, and certainly all good competent players know what their tank's advantages are and play to those advantages in the beginning of the game. But something happens. Like 2 or 3 minutes into the game, something happens. People forget they're in a medium tank, or they forget that they shouldn't be going toe-to-toe with a heavy, that they can find and develop situations where they can engage more favorably. This is... Here I get a bit reckless. But it works out quite well. Or just. Let's say that. And again, there's our VK. He's coming for me. I've got the mobility. I'm on my reload now. I don't have any DPM at present for the next, like, 7 seconds. You can just move. And for the whole of this game, I have been using my mobility, rotating around, flanking, and it's enabled me to output a lot of damage over time. And I think the key mistake people are making is they are sacrificing, they're just willfully, blindly sacrificing the advantages of their tank, handing the upper hand back to the enemy team. And it's costing them time on the battlefield, it's costing them effective damage output, which was super important with the last event. And ultimately, it's probably costing you, us, them, me, games when we forget to keep the advantages that we win early on, when we YOLO from the medium flank into the city and we don't think things through. So that's the mistake. The mistake is forgetting what your remit, your core objectives, the strengths and abilities and weaknesses of your tank are halfway through the game and wasting everything that you earned in the beginning. So let me know. Do you think this is something you do? Do you think this is something that you see other people do? Certainly it drives me absolutely insane when I see my medium teammates launch themselves off into the city after a successful campaign on the medium flank. And I think that if we can normalize the concept of not losing sight of what makes our tank that we're driving great, a couple of minutes into the fight, we'll all be playing a lot better at the end of the day. Anyways, this is RollingSwarm signing off for now. I hope you've enjoyed these replays. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour de force of a basic yet overlooked, often overlooked concept in World of Tanks Blitz. Bye for now.